Hi there. Welcome to Introduction to Statistics. I'm Professor Fulkerson. I'm going to be the instructor for the course, and I just wanted to offer this little orientation video to familiarize you with the course. So when you log in, you should see this page, a little bit of information about the course, a link to this video, advice about good online practice, and below that a link to the syllabus. And you're going to want to download that and save a copy. And the syllabus has information about the course policies, um, the catalog, the grading information, the textbook, software. A lot of this stuff is also in our shell. I try to make our shell as self-contained as possible, but this is the official document. Okay, below the home page where we log in, we've got a link to our announcements. This is probably a familiar page to you. This is usually the home page, but I prefer to have a more customized home page. Just check the announcements periodically. I'll put things there like reminders for assignments or updates, and you'll probably get a copy of those by email, but there should be a record of all the announcements here. Professor page, that's a little bit of information about me. Feel free to contact me by my email here. Uh, there's a link to the Ask the Professor forum, and I really recommend you use that, especially if you have any questions to ask me that are based on the material in the course. So if you're struggling with a concept, this is a great place to pose a question. And I really enjoy being able to work through those problems in this forum. Textbook information is here. You can see we're using Elementary Statistics by Larson and Farber. If you have a later edition, it should be very similar. I don't require the later editions, only the fifth. There hasn't been a lot of change to it, so there's no reason to get the later, more expensive edition. Software, this is going to be an important piece for our data exercises, which I'll say something about in a minute. But we do have access to remote computing, which is going to be essential to this course because these remote options will provide access to IBM SPSS statistics. Okay, and that's something we're going to use for our data exercises. Okay, over here, distribution tables. Those are going to be those are supplementary. Your textbook should have the tables as well, but this is just kind of quick access to some of the distributions we use for our assignments. So yeah, that could be more convenient than going to the textbook. All right, so all the assignments of the course are linked here. You can see we've got practice activities. This is where you will kind of learn in a more hands-on way about different statistical techniques. So if you click on one, you'll get an overview, uh, the instructions, and then a place to turn in the practice activities. And I'm giving you options for how you do this. If you want, you can just type your answers right into Word and submit your document that way. And that's always a nice, neat solution. But sometimes with some of the formulas we use, that can be a little bit tedious. So you may want to instead print the instructions, and you can just write directly on the printed instructions, do your work kind of the old-fashioned way. Thing is with that, I do want you to know how to scan the documents into a single PDF document. I don't want 10 different pictures. I don't want a whole bunch of disorganized files, just one PDF. If you have a smartphone and you have the OneDrive app on it, it has a built-in scanning option that's very easy to use. I recommend you use that, and it will automatically turn it into a PDF. Uh, the third option is to use an Excel spreadsheet. Uh, a workbook will contain several individual worksheets, so each problem of the practice activity should only go on one worksheet. So then usually the practice activities have around 8 to 10 problems, just enough to give you some familiarity. So regardless of how you decide to do this, whether it's a Word document or a PDF or an Excel, this is where you're going to turn it in. So if you click that, you should be able to uh, upload your file. Okay, so that's practice activities. Usually that's how we're going to start the weeks. Discussions build off of that, and each discussion you're going to be creating your own example. So having done maybe 8 to 10 practice activities, uh, problems on the practice activities, now think of the discussion as your opportunity to invent your own example or your own problem that could go on the practice activity. So after you do practice activity 1, you'll find for discussion 1, you can create your own example that's something that might appear on that first practice activity. All right, so you'll click on that, you'll create a thread, offer up your example. The second part of the discussions, in addition to your original post, will be replies. So what I want you to do for that is to locate examples that your classmates have posted, and then work through the examples and post your results. Okay, and then you can see if your results match what the example shows. And you're going to do that twice. So there'll be 2 replies and 1 post for each discussion. We only have 1 discussion per week. So that just kind of solidifies your understanding of the techniques. Once you've done that, you've had your practice activities and you've completed your discussion work, that's a good time to take the exam. The exams happen later in the week. So you have until Sunday to take them. I recommend you take them by Friday just to get them out of the way, and that's because you're going to want to have a little bit of time left at the end of the week to do your data exercise. So week 1, we'll have data exercise 1. And the data exercises have instructions, they have tutorials, they have data, they have a place to turn them in. I repeat these same instructions at the top here on each of the data exercises. Let me show you a little bit about remote lab computing because, as I said, in order to use the software for these exercises, unless you want to install it, which is an option, you can rent the software. You go to the SUNY Hub. You can see that you can install this software on your PC or your Mac. Unfortunately, there are not versions for iPads or Chromebooks or other platforms. You can get a 6-month, and our class is only 5 weeks long, so that would be plenty of time. So about $40, and you can install it on your own machine. But if you can save $40, I recommend you use these remote lab options. So my favorite is the second one here. I just find it more intuitive. If you click the Windows Virtual Desktop Environment, it'll open up in a new tab, and you'll see a link down here that you can connect through a browser. And the nice thing about this is you can access this even through an iPad or a Chromebook. Okay, so it makes it more friendly to different platforms. When you get to this, you'll click on this icon. You can then, I recommend enabling file transfer, although I wouldn't want to rely on that necessarily. So what it's going to do is you'll log in with your Oneana credentials, and then it's going to open up a computing environment. So basically, it's like opening up a computer inside of a computer. You can actually, I think you can even do this on a smartphone, but the screen size might make it very cumbersome to use. I haven't tried that, so don't quote me. But I have tried it on an iPad, and it does work. So this takes a minute to load. Maybe get up, get yourself something to drink or a snack, come back, and it'll be there ready to go. I'm going to pause for a second, and then, okay, and it's finally done loading. It always opens up Microsoft Teams. I just close that. Here you can make this full screen, and then you can really feel like you're sitting at a lab computer, which is a really nice feature. So to get to the software we need, it's got this icon here. If you don't see that, don't worry. You can go through the Start menu. Then you want to go down to IBM SPSS Statistics, and then click on the link to open the software. And that also takes a while. It's a pretty heavy-duty piece of software, so just have some patience. Make sure you've got time to work on this. And I'm going to pause again. Okay, and now that is finally open for me. I'm ready to get down to work. So I usually just close that open dialog box, and then I minimize this. And from here, we're ready to start working on the data exercises. You can actually go right to a web browser, and you can begin logging back into Blackboard on this remote environment. And the nice thing about that is uh, once you are logged into Blackboard in this remote environment, you'll be able to download your data files to that environment. So I'm going to go to Blackboard, log in. Oh, I have a new password. Okay. Okay, and now I'm going to go to our course and go to data exercises and say for data exercise 1, I can get my data, right? So if I download that, that will put it on my machine, this distance virtual machine. Okay, and if I click open, you'll see SPSS will automatically take that. And now you're ready to get down to business. So that's one little thing I wanted to show you. All your results are going to be in this output window for those data exercises, and you're going to want to save everything you do here. You can export your SPSS results into a PDF or a Word document. Right? So if you keep it in Word, obviously that's nice because you can edit it. So that's what I do. And just make sure that whatever you're doing on this remote environment, you can locate. So your documents uh, should be accessible. If you go to OneDrive, I recommend you save your things to OneDrive because then you can access it from other devices. All right, so just keep those things in mind when you're doing your data exercises. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you with that. I'm going to leave this remote environment. So as you're going through the class, you're going to want to come into these modules. So module 1, for instance, you can see, well, this is module 0, sorry, this is what we're going to do on day 1 of the class. So look at the syllabus, ask me a question. This is a fun, ungraded discussion called Meet Your Classmates, just a way to get to know one another. And then when you're ready, you can go to module 1. You can see most modules have the same basic layout. There's an overview, a set of readings. I've made lots of YouTube video presentations to walk you through the material, which will correspond to the readings. So these things are what you're going to study for the exam and prior to doing the practice activity or discussion. All right, there's a timeline, so it kind of gives you an idea. So Monday through Wednesday, view presentations, read textbook. While you're working on reading and watching these videos, you can start your first practice activity. That's going to be submitted on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, you'll also begin discussion 1. Right? And then Thursday, you'll come back and do your replies for discussion 1. Or Friday's fine. Your exam should be taken Friday, ideally. Although technically you could take it a little bit later if you wanted to. Sunday is the deadline. And then the last thing is our data exercise, and that's going to be due on Sunday. Right, so you can also do that early if you want to. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of when you're doing things. Just make sure that you're getting things done early and not late if possible. The only bit of leeway you got is on the exam, where you can take it up till Sunday. Right, so each module sort of looks like that. Same basic layout, overview, timeline, presentations, readings, and then the work, right? The practice activity, the discussion, the exam, and the data exercise using SPSS. Right? So that should pretty much get you through. If you have any questions, again, you can click on my page, post something on Ask the Professor, or you can email me. Either way is fine. And look forward to a good semester. Thank you.